The wind at Fort Brenton always carried something with it: dust, tension, and the sharp echo of boots hitting concrete. It was a place where weakness was hunted down and burned out of you, where discipline was not just taught but carved into every bone of your body. And among the tall steel buildings and endless training fields stood a girl who everyone assumed would break long before the end of the program. Her name was Liana Carter. 23 years old, 5'3", thin arms, quiet voice, and eyes that rarely met anyone's for more than a few seconds. She didn't look like she belonged in a Special Forces qualification program, especially not one led by General Marcus Hale, a man known across the military as a relentless storm in human form. On the first day, when recruits lined up, shoulder to shoulder, Hale didn't even bother hiding his annoyance when he saw her. He paced in front of the formation, boots striking the ground like hammer blows, his eyes cold and measuring. "Someone tell me," he barked, pointing at Liana without looking directly at her, "who approved this? Who thought bringing a weak little girl into a program meant for warriors was a good idea?" The others stood still, eyes forward. Not a single person shifted. And Liana just swallowed hard, the way someone does when they know they're about to be tested in the most brutal way possible. For 2 weeks, Hale made her his personal target. Extra push-ups, extra runs, extra drills. Whenever something went wrong, even if it wasn't her fault, he found a way to blame her. Recruits whispered behind her back, assuming she'd quit any day. Even her squad leader told her quietly one evening, "Carter, it's okay if you can't keep up. Nobody expects you to finish this." But she didn't quit. She woke up earlier than the others. She stayed later. Her hands bled from rope climbs, her legs shook after obstacle runs, and her lungs burned, but her expression never changed. Quiet, focused, controlled. It was the kind of determination that didn't scream, it radiated silently. One night, while the rest trained in the main hall, Hale watched from a distance as Liana ran laps alone, long after lights out. Her shadow moved under the dim floodlights, small but stubborn, hitting the same pace every lap, refusing to slow down. For the briefest second, Hale felt something unfamiliar, curiosity. But he crushed it instantly. In his mind, she was still weak. She still didn't belong in his program. The real turning point, however, came during a combat simulation. The recruits were divided into pairs and instructed to demonstrate hand-to-hand defensive techniques. Hale walked among them, correcting stances, criticizing weaknesses, and pushing them harder. When he reached Liana and her assigned partner, a broad-shouldered man named Cole, he stopped. "Carter," he said sharply, "your movements look like you're afraid of your own shadow." He ordered Cole to strike faster. Liana blocked each hit, but barely. Her stance looked small compared to Cole's overwhelming size. Hale finally stepped forward and gestured Cole away. "No, if you're going to pretend you belong here, you're going to have to deal with the real thing." He raised his fists. The room fell silent. Nobody, ever, sparred with General Hale. He was a legend in combat circles, a man who'd trained elite soldiers who later became ghosts in classified missions. And he was about to teach a lesson to someone half his size. Liana took a breath, steady and unbroken. "Sir," she said, with respect, "I don't think this is necessary." "Oh, it's very necessary," Hale growled. "Let's see how strong you really are." Before she could say anything else, he launched forward, not fully striking, but hitting fast enough to make a point. His palm smacked her shoulder hard, sending her stumbling. Murmurs spread across the room. He came at her again, faster, hitting her arm, her side, controlled strikes but heavy enough to bruise. "Defend yourself," he shouted. She raised her hands, but he swept them aside easily. He hit her again, and this time she dropped to one knee. A few recruits exchanged uneasy looks. This wasn't training anymore, it was humiliation. "You don't belong here," Hale hissed. "You're weak." The word echoed in the hall. That was when something changed. Liana slowly got to her feet. She wiped her lip where blood had begun to form. And when she looked up at Hale, her eyes were different, steady, unblinking, almost calm in a way that didn't make sense. "Are you done, sir?" she asked quietly. The recruits froze. Hale's jaw tightened. "Not until you fight back." He swung again. 5 seconds later, he was the one on the ground. It happened so fast that many blinked and missed it. She stepped inside his reach with perfect timing, deflecting his strike with a movement so smooth it didn't seem human. Her left hand redirected his arm, her right elbow struck his sternum with deadly precision, and a quick leg sweep dropped him harder than anyone thought possible. The sound of the general's body hitting the floor echoed like thunder. As Hale gasped for breath, struggling to process what had just happened, Liana stepped back, not triumphant, not angry, just controlled. "Sir, I didn't want to do that," she said. "But you ordered me to defend myself." Silence consumed the hall until Hale's voice broke it, not in anger, but in pain. "Medic," he choked, clutching his ribs. 2 medics rushed toward him. When they helped him sit up, Hale stared at Liana with an expression even the recruits couldn't interpret: shock, respect, and something close to disbelief. "What was that?" one of the recruits whispered. Liana didn't answer. She simply stepped back into formation, breathing hard but composed. Later that day, word spread across Fort Brenton like wildfire. The weak girl had taken down General Hale, a man nobody else dared challenge. Everyone wanted to know how she did it, what her background was, where she trained before this. Some said she was secretly part of an elite unit. Others claimed she'd been raised in martial arts since childhood. But no matter what rumors surfaced, she never confirmed or denied anything. The only thing that mattered was this: Hale's attitude changed. The next morning, he entered the training yard with slow steps, still holding his side. The recruits stood rigid, waiting for him to explode or punish the entire squad. But when he stopped in front of Liana, everyone held their breath. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "What you did yesterday," he began. "That was skill, not luck." Liana didn't respond. She simply waited. Hale nodded slowly. "I underestimated you." Those words shocked the entire squad more than the fight itself. "From today forward," Hale continued, "you are not the weak link. You're the standard they have to reach." Gasps spread through the line. The same recruits who had laughed at her on day one now stared at her with a mix of awe and embarrassment. Training intensified, and every time someone struggled, Hale didn't tell them to work harder. He pointed at Liana. "If she can do it, so can you." No excuses. For the remaining weeks of the program, Liana trained with unmatched precision. She led drills, helped slower recruits master techniques, and pushed herself far beyond the limits they thought possible. Hale watched her with a growing respect, something he rarely offered to anyone. One evening, after a brutal endurance test, Hale approached her as she sat alone on the steps of the barracks, stretching her aching legs. "Carter," he said quietly, "I need to know. Where did you learn to fight like that?" Liana didn't look up immediately. Instead, she tied her boot laces, thoughtful. "My father," she finally said. "He trained me since I was 12. Hale waited. "He was special forces?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, he wasn't military. But he taught me discipline. He taught me precision. And he taught me something you reminded me of, sir." "And what was that?" "That being underestimated is a weapon. A powerful one." Hale let out a breath. Not quite a laugh, but close. For the first time, he realized how wrong he'd been. Not just about her, but about what strength really meant. By the time graduation day arrived, Liana stood at the top of her class. Hale personally presented her with the completion badge. When he pinned it to her uniform, he leaned in slightly. "You didn't just earn this," he whispered. "You changed this entire program." She nodded respectfully. "Thank you, sir." As the graduates celebrated, several recruits, those who once doubted her, approached her to shake her hand, thanking her for inspiring them. She accepted quietly, offering small smiles, the same calm presence she carried from day one. Later that night, as the sun set behind the training field, Liana looked out over the base, feeling the weight of everything she'd overcome. Her journey wasn't over, not by a long shot. But she had proven something most people never get the chance to prove. Strength is not measured by size. Confidence doesn't have to be loud. And sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one who can drop a legend in 5 seconds. Before leaving the base, she recorded a message for the viewers of the channel following her journey. She stood tall, her uniform dusty from the day's drills, her voice steady but warm. "If you're watching this," she said, "remember something important. No matter who doubts you, No matter how small your chances look, your strength is not defined by anyone else. Believe in yourself when no one else will. She paused, then smiled. And make sure you subscribe to Bravo Warrior Stories for more real, powerful journeys like this. Your support keeps these stories alive, and you never know which one might inspire you to change your own life. The screen faded, leaving only her silhouette against the sunset, a symbol of quiet power, determination, and the undeniable truth that sometimes the strongest warrior is the one no one expects.